In this video, we'll look at the general setup of the LabE, which is the determination of vitamin C. We'll also see in a general way how we will determine the moles of vitamin C in our tablet, and further, we'll see what would be the impact if we were to overshoot our titration. How would overshooting the titration affect the estimation of vitamin C in the tablet? Here we have an illustration of the experimental setup for LabE, as well as the corresponding balanced chemical equations. The setup here is very similar to LabD, except we're having to consider the vitamin C solution, because of course we're trying to determine the amount of vitamin C in a tablet. One way to think about this is consider the 10-fold diluted standard potassium iodate. We pipette 15 mils of this into our Erlenmeyer. Now note this is a larger volume than in LabD. This potassium iodate defines how much I2 total will be present in the Erlenmeyer, as the potassium iodide and the sulfuric acid are in excess. In addition to adding the potassium iodate, we're also adding the vitamin C solution. Vitamin C reacts with I2 according to equation number 2. So some of that I2 total will be consumed by the vitamin C solution. So the reason why we're doing the titration is not, of course, to standardize the sodium thiosulfate solution this time, but is to find out how much I2 is remaining after the I2 total has reacted with the vitamin C solution. So we have the I2 total, we have the I2 that reacted with the vitamin C, and we have the I2 remaining that will be determined by the titration. So we can say that the I2 total equals the I2 that reacted with the vitamin C and the I2 remaining. If we didn't add any vitamin C, then the I2 total should equal the I2 remaining. Ultimately, the way that you will be calculating the amount of I2 that reacted with the vitamin C is that you will determine the I2 total based on equation number 1, and you will subtract the I2 remaining, which is based on the titration, the volume and the concentration of the sodium thiosulfate, and equation number 3. So that's the experimental setup. In relation to the pre-lab and also considering the calculations in general, I'd like you to think about, well, what would happen if in doing the titration you overshoot the endpoint? That is, you add too much sodium thiosulfate titrant. And therefore, of course, the volume that you've added is too large. So think about how that would impact your I2 remaining. Your I2 total is a given and is based on your primary standard. So you have your I2 total a given, subtracting a larger number than it should be in terms of the I2 remaining. That will impact the I2 vitamin C and in turn the actual determination of the vitamin C. So hopefully this little discussion here has given you a little bit of background in considering the pre-lab question as well as in considering how to complete your calculations.